Hi, this is Hyperwave. I'm Leah Wald and I'm here with Tyler. We're going to review what happened last night in Bitcoin because there was a beautiful move, great forming patterns, and then we're going to talk about what we believe is going to happen next. Tyler?
Great. Thank you, Leah. Last night was a good night. It seems like every other night we either say it's a good night or a bad night. A lot of things happen in the evening and the nighttime relative to East Coast time with Bitcoin as trades circle the world, but our markets have not yet opened up. They, of course, open up in the morning at 9:30 and close at 4. So after 4 o'clock, things begin to change as the time zone shifts around the world. But last night was a good one for Bitcoin, and it's stalling out a little bit again this morning. So we're going to take a close look at it as we get closer and closer to that 9,000 peak that we hit several days ago. Why don't we go right to screen share? And what we'll do is we'll pull up a couple of charts for you. This will only take probably 10 or 15 minutes this morning. So the first thing we'll look at is long-term picture of Bitcoin. We clearly have not been showing a lot of other cryptocurrencies, and Leah and I will have a discussion about that either today or tomorrow, where we're comparing Bitcoin to all the other cryptocurrencies on a philosophical and even a theological as well as economic and financial basis. But I continue to believe that when you're talking about studying cryptocurrencies from a price point of view, you always must start with Bitcoin. It is the progenitor of all the other ones. And in a lot of ways, fundamentally, it is by far the most important. But we will discuss that in some detail. What you're looking at is the chart of Bitcoin going back approximately to the beginning of 2016, where it was trading at $350. And it's been in this remarkable pattern that we call a hyperwave. And that helps me to understand where it is and where it's going. But there are some difficult points along the way, and we are at one of those difficult points right now. I've drawn a line in which comes in currently around the $6,300 level. And I said a week and a half ago that I really hope that that line is not broken. And as you see, as we move the chart over a little bit, we did break it on the big drop down below 6,000. But since we have got this little pop, so week-long green candle slightly above our drop deadline. So we're going to go into details there. And what I want to do is, first of all, show you the chart that we have shown over and over again. I drew a similar one 40 years ago, and with about these same specifications. Since then, I've found over 300 examples of hyperwaves, and we've shown you a number of them. But last night, I updated this chart, and this is what it looks like now. It's the same chart exactly, but I've made some minor changes in it in order to better understand the movement that takes place in a hyperwave. I've added some color to it a little bit. You can barely see it, but here is phase number 1, and there's a red 1 below the line, and that means that all the price must stay below that line. And it usually goes for a year or 2 years or 5 years. I've seen some that go as long as 20 years in this number 1 pattern. At some point, price breaks out, and this is green. It probably looks blue to you, but it's actually a green number 2, red number 1, green number 2. All of the red numbers are below the lines and all the green numbers are above the lines. What that means is when a red number appears, the price stays below the line. When a green number appears, the price stays above the line. So you basically have 4 green periods where prices are going up and 3 red periods. So obviously the thing we're always trying to figure out is where are we in a hyperwave? And I've given some examples in the past. This is the one that most people today remember and lived through. This is the dot-com bubble in the NASDAQ, running from the early 1990s as these trends 1, 2, and 3 take place, and then the huge run up to 5,000 when phase 4 takes place. This is the drop in phase 5. This is the move back up in phase 6, and then the long period down in phase 7. Let's just go back. That's what you just saw in real time with the NASDAQ from 1992, basically all the way to today, but we ended up dropping all the way back to this low level 2 area before heading up again. And many of you now know that I have said that one hyperwave can follow another hyperwave. And when that occurs, what often happens is, as you can see here, the phase 7 does not necessarily have to drop all the way down to phase 1 or 2. If it's a very strong move, in this case, dot-coms got in the way of the rest of the technological development that was taking place, and everybody paid the price for it. But technology was real. And so even as early as 2003, 2004, 2005, there was enough strength left in this chart to start another move that was interrupted by the huge recession in 2007, 2008, into March of 2009. And now we've finally gotten back to where we were many, many years ago, 18 years ago, basically. And we're still going higher. I believe that this is a new hyperwave that will make this one look very small over the next 5 to 10 years. But in any case, let's go back to Bitcoin. I will show you one other chart that we've shown you before. This is Adams Express back in the 1920s. This is a hyperwave with phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, and the long phase 7, bringing it all the way back down below where it started. Okay, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is in a hyperwave, a very major pullback that is very scary from the perspective of hyperwave, because it is possible that what we have is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 that would take us all the way back to 1,000. I have been saying that there's a small probability, less than 50%, that that's where we are. I believe that this is actually a phase 2 or a phase 3 line, and this is such a powerful move in this asset class that this is just a correction in that phase 3 line. But it must hold. It did a week and a half ago. We broke down through it, but my rule is you must close below it on a weekly basis. In the case of Bitcoin, that means a Sunday night close lower than these trend lines. It did not do that. It popped back up, and now we're trying to move away from that line. So let's look at what happened last night. I'll take a look at a 1-hour chart, And basically, we have run, we'll start a little bit larger so we can take in the entire move from the top. 19,666, December 16th, this long move down to this trend line, holding the trend line, and now slowly trying to move up. And you can see on this longer chart, we have not made much progress. It's a lot better than where we were 7 days ago, but we're struggling to go higher. And we've explained that in terms of all the overhead resistance at the 9,000 level, at the 10,100 level, and at the 11,100 level. We need to get above those levels, and we're trying to do it on this move. We got up to 9,000 and dropped all the way back to 7,800. We've got a double bottom here now at the 7,800, but for a lot of reasons, that is not a very strong bottom. And we're very worried about the ability to keep moving higher. That's why I said last night was an important night. We had a little flag that we broke out of to the upside. We had a little bit of a trend channel that we broke up out of. But this is the big bar that occurred just about 7 hours ago that cleared through this entire area and got us very close back up to the highs of 9,000. It's taking a rest again. The last 4 hours, it slipped back. We're trading at 8,567. We need to get it back above this high at 9,000. Too early to tell if it's going to do it, and even if it does, that's only a minor move compared to where we need to go. We need to get above 10,100, which is all of these tops and bottoms going back. And for me, and it's a little bit idiosyncratic for me to say this, and a lot of people don't agree with it, but I think 11,100 is even more important than 10,100. I personally will be ready to say if we can close above 11,100, and I don't care how long it takes, as long as we don't take out this line. The longer it takes, the better in my mind. I would like to go sideways to up for another month if we could do it before getting enough energy together to break through that. But if we can get above 11,100 on a closing basis, I'll be ready to say that the bottom is in the bottom. And we are now working on taking out overhead resistance like the 17,000 and finally the big one, the all-time high at 19,666. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've been saying over and over again, be patient. Oh, be ready. Know what the consequences are if Bitcoin is unable to move up steadily from here and take out overhead resistance. In my mind, if we take out this line and we close below it, we're going much, much lower. I don't want that to happen. I don't believe that's going to happen. But we've got to have our eyes open and be very, very flexible. This is a very important time for Bitcoin. And with all of that, I'm going to turn it back over to Leah.
Thanks, everybody. Till next time.
Bye-bye.